Welcome to Safety Talk. Personal safety expert Pete Canavan shares his insights and interviews experts who provide simple and effective tips, techniques, and technologies to keep you safe and secure both online and off. Here's Pete.
Hello and welcome to Safety Talk. I have another great episode and great guest for everyone today. And our episode today, we're going to talk to a gentleman by the name of Randy Ferez. Randy is president and CEO of a company called Dr. Box Consulting. What he does is he helps high-performing managers get their dream jobs because they've had enough of being overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, all the reasons why people leave jobs. Their lives can suffer as a result of that. So the bottom line is we want people to be happy and healthy and enjoy their jobs. But we're going to talk, too, about safety in a big way because this is Safety Talk. And Randy has implemented DuPont stop training back as far back as the early 1990s and was a regional safety champion for a Fortune 500 corporation back in the 90s and has been an executive and run executive headhunter firm. He's also been on numerous news broadcasts, including BBC. He has contributed to improving the economy for the country of Georgia. He's also led Plant's financial turnaround for a multinational corporation in the Fortune 1000. So he's well versed and well experienced in the realm of corporate business and finance and also safety. So he has a lot to contribute to our listeners today, and we're happy to have him on. He's also been responsible for helping the U.S. and Afghan governments launching different industries in Afghanistan. So he's a world traveler. He's world experienced as well. So his coaching programs are something we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, but we're happy to bring him on. So if you haven't already liked or subscribed, please do so and help us share the safety information that is out there helping keep this world a safer place. So with that, we'll bring on Randy. Come on down. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Pete?
Oh, it's good. It's another beautiful day in Northeast PA. Getting into the springtime, hopefully before too long. It's been a cold winter, and we appreciate you joining us today because we all want to be safe and secure in our businesses, especially at work, but of course at home as well. But this is an area that you've worked in for quite some time. And as we can tell from your bio, as I went through there, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about how maybe you got into that field, and then we'll dive into some detail.
Sure. Well, first, it's a pleasure to be on Safety Talk and the great value that you provide to your audience to try to help them in not only their jobs but their home life and make sure that they're safe because safety is our number one priority. And, none of us want to be missing a toe or missing a finger or have a loved one be injured. So always having safety at the forefront is absolutely critical. And I learned that because I came up through manufacturing. I started out actually, I have Tourette syndrome and ADHD for my whole life. So if you see my arm twitching, that's what that is. But I do not have a degree, and I started out in manufacturing as a general laborer, but within a year and a half, I was running my own department. And when you're in manufacturing, as most of you that are in manufacturing know, safety is always number one. So you've got to look out for yourself. You've got to look out for your coworkers, and you got to watch out for unsafe acts, unsafe conditions. So we implemented the DuPont Stop program back in the early 90s, shortly after it came out, and then their safety leadership stuff a couple of years later. I was a process and procedural safety training administrator for them for a period of time. And then when I changed companies, I was the quality manager. And most people in the safety space can attest to most of you are not just a safety engineer or manager. You have a different title, but safety is one of your top priorities. In my case, I was technically a quality assurance manager, but I was also a regional safety champion in charge of safety for 11 plants and the training of those people in 11 plants for a Fortune 1000 corporation with a quality manager title. So, it's not the title, it's what the focus is. So basically being in manufacturing and safety being number one, it's been ingrained into my being since the very beginning.
Excellent. Appreciate that that background information because manufacturing has a set of risks that can be very, very dangerous, especially depending on the type of equipment and manufacturing equipment being used. I mean, I have some clients that have manufacturing facilities, and you got to make sure you pay attention at all times because
Absolutely.
you have some piece of equipment moving nearby and you're not careful. I mean, it may not even just grab a finger or toe. It may grab a piece of clothing, right, and pull you into the machine.
Absolutely.
So, I
Or
mean,
your hair or anything. Yeah.
right. So there's all kinds of safety protocols exist for a reason. People have to be careful with that. But I mean, any business has its own set of safety risks. It could be just, something as simple as being somebody spilled a water on the floor, right? And now
Absolutely.
nobody said anything and cleaned it up. And now somebody else walks by and they slip and they fall and they injure themselves. So
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, the bottom line is we all want to go home at the end of the day, safe, secure, and in one piece, right?
Sure. And it never changes in those type of environments. Even if you progress in your career, as you become, a production manager or a general manager. I mean, as a general manager of a Fortune 1000 corporation, I was the head of safety for the whole, for my whole division, my whole unit. And, OSHA changed the rules a few years ago that once on the large corporations, if you have an incident at one operation, at one plant, and then you have one at a completely different plant and you didn't know about it at the other plant, it still gets considered as a repeat violation. So once they changed that, all the senior managers all had to get together all the time to always communicate everything about the safety to make sure that, if we've learned a lesson in one plant, that we're learning that lesson everywhere.
Yeah, that really requires much greater level of communication. But I would think that that's, even though it's probably not as, a little bit of an inconvenience, it's probably worth it, right?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. You don't want, it doesn't matter how many products we make or sell if we have to hurt somebody to make them. Safety always has to be number one.
So, in the United States, we have OSHA and we have, other regulatory agencies that help us. You've done a lot of things internationally. Are there also standards that are, I don't know, maybe on par or better or worse than what we have in the United States in terms of helping, foreign companies stay safe? Or is it how I'm interested to know how's that kind of work? Because for anybody that's doing international work, or if your company maybe has a location in another country, things may operate a little bit differently here. So I'm sure you've seen some things in your travels that were something that you would never see, for example, in the United States.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in Western Europe, like the EU, that kind of stuff, they're very much like the US. If anything, they're better than we are. They're more technology driven and things than we are because their labor rates are a little bit higher than ours. So they do things a little more automated and things like that in some of the manufacturing operations. But yeah, you can see some eye-opening safety situations, especially in third world countries. When I went and did that project in Georgia, now here in the United States, if you're making paper and you're making packaging paper, like if you're making corrugated boxes and things like that, you have a steam plant. So you're producing steam that heats these rolls because you have to heat up the paper, and that way at the point of contact, when you apply the starch formula, that the heat can cause it to gel, and that's what creates the glue. So you have to heat these rolls up. So we use steam in the United States, and we use it exclusively. Well, they use oil boilers and places. But the thing that really was the eye opener for me, now imagine this, you're in a box plant. So it's paper and you've got paper dust everywhere and you've got, and their housekeeping standards were terrible. So I had to write up a whole housekeeping policy for all these companies because you've got boxes and paper everywhere. And you know how they're heating up the rolls? Open flame.
Oh
they have a pipe, they've drilled holes in it, and they're pumping natural gas out of the pipe and lighting it on fire, and you've got open flame going up against this metal roll with the paper a foot away from it and piles of stuff everywhere. It was It was an eye-opening experience. I'm like, holy moly, you got to be kidding me. So I basically had a conversation with all the people that I was working with and said, hey, in addition to this, we got to put in some safety processes over here or these places are going down. So
I hope they gave you hazard pay for that.
for sure. And they don't know. But the reality is we have to be trained to be safe. Mm-hmm. If we're trained that that's normal, that you just heat it up, it's not a big deal, you don't realize how unsafe that is. You have to be trained to work safe.
Absolutely. And things change all the time. As you mentioned, you know, some of the regulations have changed recently with like the interplant stuff, but they're always changing, and they're changing because, you know, these agencies are learning. They're learning from, you know, situations that occur out in the field to people, and they have to figure out ways to, you know, ensure that that doesn't happen again, or at least train people in new methods or ways of doing things more safely in order to prevent accidents from happening. Because, hey, accidents are going to happen, right? We've all been in places where, you know, there's like a board on the wall that says, you know, it's been 274 days since an accident or whatever, right?
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
You don't want to be in a place that says it's been 3 days since our last accident, right?
Right, yeah.
You want to be in the ones that say it's been, you know, 2,000 days since our last accident.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that really is going to give you a sort of sense of how safety conscious that environment is, that company, that plant, whatever it is, right? So
sure, that goes along with like the safety training that you provide, your services that you do to help corporations improve their safety cultures and things like that. It's along those same lines.
Yeah, and there's so many different aspects to safety, as you know. I mean, you have the safety on the shop floor, like in a manufacturing facility. You got safety in the office, where you may have to worry about potential threats, you know, to someone's well-being, maybe from a workplace violence incident, or an active shooter, or maybe even an environmental problem, right? Something that could be from, you know, Mother Nature can always, you know, ends up sometimes rearing her ugly head and deciding to, you know, whether it's an earthquake or a fire or a flood or some other sort of natural disaster can always put us at risk. So having safety plans, having safety protocols, and having training, you know, tabletop exercises, different things that can be used to sort of help you foresee and plan for things is something that we all need to do at every level of business. I mean, you know, being proactive and not reactive is I think, the name of the game. And the technology exists that allows us to do that.
Yeah, I remember 35 years ago as a 21-year-old going through the plant with a bomb threat, trying to find and determine if there were any bombs inside our building with a maintenance manager and engineer. He and I went through and checked everywhere in the whole building to make sure it was safe. So,
and you're not exactly a bomb technician, but you kind of were at that point, I guess. That's pretty freaky, because you never know what can happen there. I think you might have frozen a bit there, Randy.
You froze for a second.
Yeah, so did you. Oh, we love technology, right?
Yeah. All right.
But no, I mean, hey, you're not a bomb technician. You know, what are you doing that? Like I said, you need your
somebody had to do it. Yeah, somebody had to do it. So they asked for volunteers, and so me and the maintenance manager went in together, and we went, you know, every electrical cabinet, every crevice, every machine cabinet. We just went through everywhere you could put something and went through. But we were, you know, we figured that it was just, an employee who had been fired, who was mad or something like that calling in. We didn't think there was going to be a bomb, but we could have blown up.
Well, you never know. I mean, disgruntled employees are another safety threat.
No,
I mean, whether it's from
for sure.
deciding to come in and do something, or plan a bomb or some other sort of sabotage to a business. They could be a physical issue, or they could be a digital problem. They could be stealing company assets and data and stuff like that. So, so how did you go from that part of your career being in safety, and doing a lot of the things that you were talking about here, to moving now to helping, for example, safety professionals get a better job in the job market? It seems like you've made this transition. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how that all went.
Sure. I've reinvented myself a few times. The main thing is, put whatever you can in your brain. Learn as much as you can. When you get any expert in any area, field, in your job, even if it's outside of your department, try to see if you can attend, try to learn, pick their brains, take notes, because the more you know, the more valuable you are, not only to your own company, but to any other company that may need services. And you can increase, if you're trying to climb up in your career, the more opportunities that you have to be able to do that, the faster you can climb in a lot of cases. So if you're a very narrow area, you can only go up if that one spot's open. But if you learn some other skills, so you have some other avenues, your safety knowledge and skills are always going to be of value in any job you do. So those are a great foundation and a base, but then you can broaden. The other thing is every day you're on the job, you're building your resume. So if you're just coming in and doing your job, that's what everybody else does. That's not going to set you apart. What you really need to do is look around. I mean, especially in the safety field. I mean, you guys know as well as anybody, just look around and you can see, we got some safety problems here, or we got quality problems, or we've got whatever. But when you find a problem, don't just point your finger and say, oh, look, we have a problem over here. That helps nobody.
Right.
Look at the problem, evaluate the problem, determine what resources you need to resolve the problem, things you might have to buy, people you might need to lead on your team. Then go to the leadership and say, hey, I recognize this problem. I've determined what I need to resolve the problem. I need these people to be on my team. I need to purchase these types of materials, and I will implement it, and this will be the bottom line result that it's going to deliver to the company. And if you do that, most of the time they're going to agree to let you run the project, even if it's outside your wheelhouse, because you've already done the work, you already have a direction, and you don't have to do very many of those.
How many business owners would love to have, or managers would love to have an employee come to them like that, right? It's few and far between the people that do that. So if you're someone that's looking to further your career, and you show that initiative and you show those problem solving skills, even if it's something, as you put it, outside your wheelhouse a bit, but you've done the legwork and you've done the research, you're making your boss or your manager's job that much easier, right? And they're going to appreciate that and be like, wow, they found a problem and they already figured out a solution to the problem for me. Have at it, right? Go nuts.
Absolutely. And you do that a couple of times, and pretty soon, every time they run into a big problem and they don't know how they're going to solve it, they come to you. And they say, hey, we've got this big problem. I know this isn't really your area, but we know that you can fix it. Will you be willing to fix this problem? And once you're in their mind as the person that can solve all the problems, when there's an opportunity to grow in the company, I was offered, when I was a quality manager, I was offered the controller position. The GM came to me and says, I know you don't have an accounting background, but I've seen what you do every time we give you a promotion into some other job. I know you'll struggle for 3 months, and in 3 months, you'll be the best controller we could possibly hire. You'll get it figured out. So if you want that job, it's yours. And that's a senior level job in a business unit. I turned it down because, not because it wasn't a great opportunity, it was. But my ultimate goal was to be running a whole plant, and only a small percentage of controllers become general managers versus sales managers and operations and production managers. So I told them, as much as I appreciate the offer, I would rather stay in the operations side, because my ultimate goal is to be running my own operations.
That's great. Hey, you're upfront and honest with them. See, unfortunately, a lot of people don't take the initiative, number one. And number two, they don't do anything more than what that job requires, right? If we can educate ourselves, for example, in how a business operates, as opposed to being just someone that deals with one aspect of the business, whether it's in manufacturing or information technology or whatever it happens to be inside of a business, you become that much more valuable, not only to the business as a whole, but also it allows you to do your job in a better way, because you now understand how your part of that, your job interfaces with other aspects of the company. One of the things I talk about with the cybersecurity information technology side of things when I'm doing trainings or speaking is that people have to understand that, information technology and cybersecurity must be separate. They depend on each other, right? Information technology depends on, being secure, and cybersecurity can't do its job without having some information technology. But, a lot of people that are in those fields are great at what they do. They're technical. They are extremely intelligent. They get the job done, but they don't have an overall business experience and business knowledge. And we're seeing that a lot in the cybersecurity field. So there are people that are really, really good about, doing, the job there, maybe utilizing, generational AI is now starting to come into play, right? And helping people do their jobs, better. But it doesn't take the place of having the general knowledge about how, for example, cybersecurity fits into the overall business operations and how does one thing affect another. So if you can broaden your horizons across the entire scope of business, you become that much more valuable. And that's one of the biggest gaps in employment in that field, in the cybersecurity field, is finding people that not just have the technical expertise, but the business acumen to understand how things operate. I mean, you don't have to be, an MBA, but you need to understand how, that there's an accounting department, there's a receivables department, there's inventory, and there's payroll, and there are vendors and suppliers, and there's all of these different pieces that all have to work together. And so that helps you understand, when you're doing your job, how to make things work better, be more efficient, and really more effective at the job that you're hired to do.
Yeah, one of the questions when I was hired to do a plant turnaround of a business unit for a Fortune 1000 corporation, my first meeting with my staff, I asked, "What is your job?" to each one. And at the end, I said, "Well, you're all wrong. Your job is to make this company better every day that you're here. That's your job. The other things are just little duties and things that you do, but your job is to make this company better every day. So you need to make sure we need to set goals, we need to set tactics. So every day we're working on something, because, you see breakthroughs that happen. And most people think that a breakthrough happens because of some magical technology, advance or something like that. That's not where most breakthroughs come from. Most breakthroughs come from hundreds of incremental improvements compounding on top of each other in all the different areas. And then boom, you just get a huge breakthrough because everybody's working towards the same goals and everybody is making progress in their areas. You get 1,000 people in a plant all working towards a goal. It's incredible what the results can be. No one person can ever do such a thing. I mean, it takes a team to do that.
I'm sure that you had some people in that meeting that went, oh, like it was kind of eye-opening for them, because when we ask somebody what their job is, that's what most people would answer, right? Oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do. Yes, that's great, but you got to get everybody to buy into the vision of the company, right? What's their vision? What's the mission here? What are we trying to accomplish? And we need to make sure that we're all working with that goal in mind. Yes, you have to do your job as part of the engine that's making this all happen, right? You're one piece of that puzzle.
Sure,
But
I have a little
without everybody being on board on the same page, you can't make those little improvements that over time end up to be exponentially, amazing for the transformation of the company and its success.
for sure. And a lot of times it's hard to see where value is. I mean, I have kind of a funny story. Now, this isn't directly safety related, but it's in a manufacturing environment where I was brought in to do a plant turnaround to save this plant. And so the first day I'm there, everybody tells me all the different, my senior managers that report to me, each one has told me at least once or twice throughout that first day, hey, you got here at 7, but our most important meeting of the day, the one where everything happens, this is where everything in the plant happens. It's because of this meeting we have at 6:30. So tomorrow you need to make sure that you're there for this meeting. And it's the production meeting. So I get there in the meeting and everybody's so excited for me to get to see what amazing things happen in this production meeting. Because we have every department head, every one of them in here. And we've got the planning manager, we've got the logistics and shipping manager, we've got customer service, sales, we've got operations, we've got maintenance, and everybody's in here, and me as the general manager. And this was in the 90s. And so they start their meeting and they go through and they're all talking about how great Stephen, the planner, is. And he's great. And he's been a planner forever. And so they're all talking and sales is saying, well, these are the priorities. This is what we need to do. Customer service is saying, well, yeah, these are the concerns that the customers have from this end. We got to get these things out. Okay. And so he's taking all those notes. Maintenance is saying, well, we got to take down the machine, for preventive maintenance. And we got a part that came in. So we need to take this machine down. So they're working all this stuff out. And, I go through this whole meeting and production's determining their stuff. And at the end of the meeting, I said, the planner, I said, you guys all said that he does a great job. Do you guys think that he's great at doing his job? Oh, yeah, he's the best. We're so lucky to have him doing the job. I said, well, are you confident, sales and customer service, that if you tell the planner what the customer's needs are, that he'll make sure that they're scheduled? Oh, yes, he's great at that. We never have any issues with him. Okay, maintenance. Do you have any concerns at any time you've had a maintenance issue that if you mention it to the planner that he won't make sure that you get access to the machine? Oh no, he always makes sure that we have access to the machine. Okay, production. Since he's been doing the planning for 35 years, do you think he understands your machinery well enough that when he gets the directions from sales and what the customer's needs are, that he can schedule in a manner that you can run efficiently and safely on your equipment? Oh yeah, he can do that. Okay, that's what I thought. So this will be the last production meeting we ever have. From now on, sales and customer service, talk to the planner. Maintenance, if you have a maintenance issue, talk to the planner. Production, do whatever the planner schedules you to do. End of story. And they were in a panic. They thought I was going to destroy the plant. And you know what? We didn't miss a beat. Because we had a whole meeting for an hour for everybody to tell the planner how to do his job when he was a top-notch planner. Just let him do his job. We don't need to waste $100 an hour times 8 senior managers in a room talking about it. Just, if you have an issue, go talk to the planner. Let him plan.
That's funny. But you know what? It was so obvious to you
to me
that it was unnecessary, but to the people that were so entrenched in it and doing it every day and used to it every day, It sounds so. There was almost like a cheerleader meeting, right?
It was. It was
we're
the
all
most
doing great.
important
Everybody, oh,
meeting.
you're doing awesome. You're doing great. Everything's doing great. Okay, why are we here?
Right.
Right? You have meetings usually to iron out issues or to discuss things, that need to be, fleshed out or whatever. But
Sure.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So just, a different perspective of being able to go in and look at things with a different way. I mean, trying to be, when you're trying to do a plant turnaround and you're trying to fix a bad safety culture and you're trying to fix any type of a culture, you got to go in and with an open mind, and you have to evaluate everything from scratch as if you knew nothing about it, and figure out, is this really, how much value is this really providing?
And you mentioned something that's also a big part of every business, which is their culture, right? I mean, you have the vision and the mission, and you got to get everybody to sort of buy into that and work towards that goal, right? Whatever it happens to be. But the culture of the company is something that's a very, very important as well, because if you have a certain type of culture, those are the people you're going to be attracting to that business, right? And if somebody is not in line with that culture and you hire them, it's good. There's going to be some friction there, right? So
Sure.
having a well-defined corporate culture and understanding the culture and how it really touches every aspect of the business, right? To how people act, how people work, what they wear, what their values are, what their beliefs are. All of that stuff comes into play, and that's all part of what makes up the corporate culture. So, sometimes you need to shake that up a little bit, as
Sure.
as you have, but if it's not consistent across the board, there are going to be issues, right? Things are eventually going to come to the surface that have to be addressed, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, especially in a long established business, right? You're talking about business in this case that the planner has been doing his job for 35 years, and the culture of the company is pretty much set. Probably a lot of those employees, I would
Sure.
think, were there for a long period of time too. So a lot of those things were so ingrained in how they operated that was all they could see,
For
right?
sure. Absolutely. That's all they could see. And they all were providing value, but they could have provided value in a different way just by going directly to the source and free up an hour of everybody's time to get things done to help save this plant instead of spending an hour in a meeting.
Right. And in comes Randy the Disruptor.
Well, that's what they hired me for, to fix it. So,
Right.
so I did. I fixed it, and it had a horrible safety culture. It had a horrible over 50% turnover. It
Wow.
was a bad culture, and so they brought me in, and I fixed it.
Oh, kudos to you. And the company's lucky to have someone that's able to do that, because not having all the pieces in place have to they all have to work together, right? They're all little parts of the machine, and they
Yeah,
all have to work. And if you've got one bad part, it screws up the whole
yeah.
output of what the system is trying to accomplish.
Throw
So
out the bad part.
yeah, replace it.
Yes, that's exactly.
So we'll shift gears a little bit here, because I know we want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now with regard to helping people get advance in their careers, and also helping companies sort of transform themselves, because you have a lot of experience. You've done this for a long time, and so people need to listen to you and read your books and listen to what you have to say. So what are some of the things that maybe we start maybe with a safety professional. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, but to stand out among the competition. I mean, we kind of already talked a little bit about, learning more about the business, improving their knowledge of other things there to increase their value to the organization. So if somebody's interested in, for example, advancing within the company, are there certain things that they can do? And then if somebody decides, there's nowhere else for me to go in terms of my upward mobility in this company, how can they take that experience, take that knowledge, and then use that to get a better job elsewhere?
Sure. They certainly, to accelerate, to excel in your job, you need to demonstrate leadership, and you need to take on problems, like I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. You need to identify your job is to make the company better each day. Then I would say you need to also, if you're doing a great job, they need to know you're doing a great job, but they need to know you're doing a great job without you telling them. Because if you tell somebody you're great, you're not.
Right.
You're not. It's just the reality. If you tell people tell us things every day. It's their actions that show who they are, not what they say. People fool us every day.
Oh yeah.
So it's important that don't tell them. Ask questions. If you're not sure that you're getting the visibility on your projects that you're doing with the managers that need to know about it, think of a good reason to need to ask one of them a question about your project. And go in and say, hey, do you have, can I have a couple of minutes of your time? I'm doing this project and this is what we've accomplished so far. And I've run into this one little thing and I need some help on it, or I need some advice, or hey, can I get your support to allow me to do something? Just come to them. That way they're knowledgeable about the advances that you're making for the company and how you're making the company better. Other things that may look kind of obvious, but most people don't ever do them, is certifications. Certifications are easy to get. All you have to do is study and pass a test, whatever certification it is. There are a few exceptions, CPA is an exception. There are a few, legal, bar association. Those are exceptions because you have to have a specific degree and you have to have a certain number of years of experience. But most certifications, you can learn and get a certification. Another thing is get involved in industry associations. Take a volunteer board position for one of their groups or a local group or something else that has to do with either safety or something in the industry. Because safety, in most cases, if you're a safety person, you're not working in a safety company. Now, there are cases that you are, but most people working in safety are working for companies that do something else.
Right.
So get involved in other aspects of that industry, not only within your company, but within the industry itself. You take a leadership, position, do a Google search for calls of papers on things where you have an expertise. Speak at a conference. Those are things that set you apart, that position you as an expert in your field. So if you're one of 10 safety engineers and you're the one that's been on stages talking to people and writing articles and things like that, and they know that you're really good at your job, those are things that if your company doesn't appreciate it, when you're going to try to get another job somewhere else to make that next step up, they're going to see, hey, out of all the people that they had at your company, you're the one.
Right.
And
that differentiates you, right? And that's
for sure.
The bottom line is you want to be able to stand out from the competition. And so if you're being proactive with learning more, doing some things like you're talking about, Randy, like, writing articles or doing research or getting certifications that you don't need, but that you want to get in order to try to advance your knowledge about your industry or what your job or your career. I mean, that's all stuff that just it's like mental currency, right? You're making yourself more valuable. And so when you're out there talking to, potential new employers, you can let them know, look, I've done this, I have this, I've been here, so it makes you a lot more valuable to them because they see you're kind of more of a go-getter. And unfortunately, we don't have as many people that are in that mindset today. I think a lot of the younger generation, unfortunately, has a mindset of expectancy, right? Or you owe me, or I need, I because I'm this, I deserve this. No, you have to demonstrate it, right? The old saying, actions speak louder than words. You kind of alluded to earlier. You could tell me how great you are, but show me how great you are, right? And that's the difference.
And that's the thing. And you build up these things, and those will basically build your resume. But your resume gets you the interview. Right. It's the interview that gets you the job.
Very true.
So let's talk a little bit about how you can out-interview everyone else, because that's something that I do. You talked about, in this market, it's not super difficult to stand out, but the higher up you go on the food chain, the higher the competition is. For the executive jobs, it's an extreme level of competition. And there aren't any resources out there that are adequate at preparing an executive for an executive interview. So that's why I do what I do, because there's really a big need there, and I can help people accelerate their careers quickly. I can help them out interview anyone else. I'll give you a few examples.
Yes, please.
Yeah, in an interview, first of all, wear a suit. Period. Wear a suit.
Should go without saying.
Unless they tell you do not wear a suit. If they say you don't have to, wear a suit.
Right.
Don't just dress for the job that you're in. Dress for the job that you eventually want to be in. Your first impression, you only get one chance. When you step in that room, I can tell you, walking into Circle K or 7-Eleven or whatever convenience store, if I walk into a convenience store wearing a suit, I'm treated differently than if I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. The perception and the respect level is different. So you need to dress and be properly groomed, first of all. Second, I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have been passed up for a promotion and probably thought they were the best person for the job. They weren't, because why would a manager hire somebody that they thought was a bad person for the job? They wouldn't.
Right.
The issue is, you may have been more qualified, but what that manager wanted wasn't qualifications. That manager wanted something else. The reason you didn't get the job is because you never bothered to ask the manager what they wanted. If you knew what was ideal, what that manager would want if that position ever became open, and you made sure that you demonstrated strength in those areas, you would get that job. But people don't ask the questions. They guess what the manager wants, because that's what I would want if I was in their position. Somebody that has all these technical knowledge and has all, or whatever else. But you're not them, and you're not making that call. And it's the same thing when you go into an interview. Almost all people that go into interview for a job forget to ask the most important things at the beginning, because you don't know what they want. You're guessing, and all the other candidates are too. So either before the interview first question is asked, or during your answer for the first question, you need to ask at the end of your answer these questions. So in this open position, what are the current challenges that are being faced in that position? What are the things that would need to be done in that position or accomplished to be considered successful in the position? And what kind of skills and knowledge and things do you feel are most ideally suited for the best fit for this position? Nobody ever asked these questions. So if you're like me, you're an expert in a whole lot of stuff. You've learned a whole lot of things over your career, but you don't want to be talking about one thing when they want the other. Now you know what they want. Now you can pull those stories from your history that resonate with the needs in that position. And I have my own proprietary, I call it the PACE format, that you tell your stories, because it's like when you write, if you're writing a novel, they tell you show, don't tell. You can't tell the story that this person has this emotion. You have to show it by a situation and by their thoughts so you can feel that emotion. It's the same thing in an interview. Don't tell them you're good, because you're not. Show them, then you are. So you need to demonstrate through stories of how you have accomplished these things in the past, the results that they were delivered, how you identified the problem, which is the P in PACE problem. You identified the problem, determine what needed to be done. Then A is assess. You assess what was needed, what are the requirements and what are the resources needed in order to do it. And then C is correction. And you can use the same philosophy in safety. It's the same type of thing. So what did you do to implement and correct the issue? And then E, evaluation. So you do your stories, and the evaluation has to be measurable. So it's quantified. We improved the safety incident rate from this number to this number. We added this number of dollars to the bottom line. We saved X number of dollars in costs. We reduced the number of recordables by 17%. Whatever it is, you need to have it quantified. So I teach how to structure your stories for answering the questions, depending on what the questions are, and understanding the psychology behind each question and why they're actually asked. A lot of times the person asking the question doesn't even know. But if you know, you can answer it in a way that helps set you apart.
Well, it's great advice, because you're right. A lot of people, they answer the questions that are asked of them, thinking that, and trying to give the answer they think is the right one, right? But as you said, most of the people being interviewed, they're just guessing. So why guess, right? And like you said, weave in those questions in your response to the person, if you right up front, so that you can now formulate the rest of your responses based around what it is that they told you. I mean, that's just smart, right? I mean, don't tell them stuff they don't want to hear. Tell them what they want to hear, but do it in a way that you're not, pandering to them. It's like, oh, we're looking for somebody that does this. Oh yeah, well, I do this because I did that. No, you have to be a little smarter than that, but be someone that's curious, right? Say, I'm interested in this position. Why are you seeking somebody? What are the challenges that you're facing here that you hope to solve by bringing in somebody, new, fresh, whatever, right? And then shut up and let them tell you, and I think that's great advice.
Yeah, and there's body language that plays a part, communication plays a part. Prep and research ahead of time, understanding where your salary should be, knowing what questions are illegal to ask, that they're not allowed to ask you, knowing there's a lot of different things that go into it, but we don't have time to go into all the nuances of being an exceptional interviewer. But what I want to do is I want to give some great closing advice that they can use that question at the beginning and the PACE method that I teach, but I can give them a really great closing that can help dramatically set them apart. So at the end of an interview, they always will ask, if any interviewer with any understanding of interviews at all will ask, do you have any questions for me or about the company? If they don't, then you can say, I would like to ask a few questions about, the position or the company. Well, if you read all the books out there, they'll tell you, ask about the culture. Don't ask about the culture. If you ask about the culture, they're going to lie. They are. They're not going to see the culture the way their employees. Does your boss? If you have a bad boss, you think your boss sees that they've created a bad culture?
Exactly.
No.
Probably not.
Not. They're not going to see it. So that's not the right question. But what I ask is, what 3 things would I have to accomplish in the first year in this position to be the best person you've ever hired?
The interviewer probably will sit back and go, huh?
Exactly. Now, I'm not telling them I want to be the best they've ever hired. I'm showing them. Then I grab my leather notepad, open it up, and I take my pen and I write. And when they tell me what those three things are, they better quantify them. Because if they say, oh, well, we'd like to see an improvement in, okay, so to determine if I was the best you've ever hired, how would you measure that?
Right.
Get them to put down a quantification. Write that down. That makes a huge impact.
Well, yeah, if they say we're hiring a salesman and we want to improve sales,
what does that mean?
What does that mean? Right.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we want to improve high margin sales by 15. If you could achieve, high margin sales up by 15%, low margin sales up 3%, blah, blah, blah. However it is, whatever they are looking for, you want those numbers. And then I'm going to violate all the other books out there too, again, that tell you when you write a thank you letter, if this is the final interview and you haven't been already offered the job, most of the time I'm offered the job before I ever have to write a thank you letter. I finish the interview and they say, well, we don't want you to leave the building before you agree to work for our company. What would it take to get you to work for our company? And then I write my own ticket. I've done that on multiple occasions. But in any case, if they haven't offered it to you by the time you walk out, then here's my ultimate thank you letter. All the books out there say only put 3 things in a thank you letter. Thank you for your time in the interview. I enjoyed meeting you and your staff and blah, blah, blah. 2, I'm interested in the position. We're assuming you are. And 3, I look forward to the next steps. And they say don't put anything else in it, but they're wrong. What I put in there is, in the interview, I asked you what 3 things I would have to accomplish to be the best person you've ever hired. You said A, B, and C. And because I want you to have received value for having interviewed me, whether you hire me or not, here is how I would accomplish those results. And I give them bulleted. Here's how I would identify the problem. Here's how I would resolve the problem. And here's how I would deliver the results and evaluate it against the metric that we agreed on the meeting to make sure that I could hit those numbers.
That's fantastic.
Now I'm doing work. I don't even have the job, and I'm already showing and proving to them that I want to be the best person they could ever imagine in this position. How can these type of things, how can somebody else compete against me in an interview? And these are just a few of the things. There's so much more, but that's how I help my clients. And they can get 30%, 40% income jumps from job to job when they switch. Because, interviewing skills are way more valuable than anybody imagines. And then once you get in there, then you utilize your knowledge and your skills to deliver on that promise. But you got to get the job first. Right. So having world-class interviewing skills is invaluable. And that's one of the things I do. And then for my lower end program, I have a boot camp where I train people on out interviewing anybody else. And then I have other coaching programs where I help them free up their time at work. And a lot of people that excel in their job, their boss gives them too much work. And I help them set proper boundaries so that doesn't happen.
I'm pulling up your website here to show people as you're talking.
All right. And I also, so it's very, sorry, I got a little distracted because I saw my picture up there on the screen. But no, it's, in doing this, it really sets you apart and allows you to get that job. And then you excel in the job by using a lot of these leadership things that I train in my other programs and tools that I teach to improve your efficiency, not let your boss overwhelm you, not let your subordinates up-delegate work to you. So you can cut your work hours down and be even more effective working less. And then you can set goals in all the other areas of your life, your spiritual, your family, your finances, your health, your, all of the areas, your hobbies, the things that you want to do with your life. You can start setting all of those goals and making sure that every area of your life just keeps getting better and better and better. So that's what I focus on my other areas of my coaching. The getting the job of your dreams is a big part of that, but your life is much more than that. You're working for a reason, and you're not working. When you're on your deathbed, you're not going to say, I wish I worked another couple extra years, or I worked some longer days. You're going to say, I wish I'd have pursued this. I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I had taken my family on that one exotic vacation that I really wanted to do. I wish I had this. I wish I had done that. You're not going to say, I wish I'd have worked more.
No, very true. And that's why I'm pulling this up here so people can see, because, life is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be lived. We're not supposed to work our lives away. I mean, some of us, myself included, work a little too much. I know that, but I call it the curse of the entrepreneur.
Sure.
You see opportunities, you want to do things. So, lots of great, valuable information. We appreciate that. That's all at your website, randyferez.com, which is PHARES.com. And
Yeah.
when you were talking about the questions to ask, and asking the interviewer to sort of quantify them, what would you say if they can't quantify them? So like you said, okay, what are you looking for? How would you measure success in the first year? What happens if they can't give you an answer?
Well, then you just take the best that they can give you. Or you offer suggestions on how they might quantify that. If you can't come up with anything and they can't come up with anything, you just get them to quantify it. There's always a way to quantify it. Mm-hmm. Even a soft skill, you could say, well, maybe it could be measured by giving a survey to the employees. Maybe it could be measured by giving a survey to clients or customers or whatever else. There should be some way. You may not get it narrowed down for sure, but the main thing is get a number if possible. And if you can't, get enough information so when you follow up with that thank you letter, you can give them enough information to raise their eyebrows and think, we've got to have this person, because you don't want to be one of many great candidates. You don't want to be a good fit for the job. You want to be the fit for the job.
Oh no, well said. Because
where they only want you.
If you're going to do that, like you said, how could they say no to you? You're providing them with solutions to the problems that they've already articulated to you. So it's like, well, geez, this guy's ready to hit the ground running. Right?
Absolutely. And nobody does this. This is stuff that I come up with, and I've read all the books out there, and they're all lacking, which is why I have a book coming out, The Ultimate Interview Guide, probably mid-year. I'm getting some international distribution and stuff like that on it as well. But also, I provide just for free. I mean, for your audience, for attending this podcast, if you go to my website on that homepage and just scroll to the bottom and just put in your name and email address and sign up for my newsletter, for being on this podcast, right there. Just fill out that little box right there. If you just put your name and your email address in there, I promise I'm going to give you the ultimate interview checklist for free. I'm going to give you an overview on a productivity series that'll help you improve the productivity in your job, which is called The Power of Productivity, and it's volume 1, the introduction. And then in addition to getting those things, I will send you infographics. I will send training, free videos and things like that a couple of times a week as I go forward. to just provide value in all different areas of business and productivity. Some things will be safety, some things will be quality, some will be productivity, some will be career, some will be leadership. And but if those are the types of things that you want just to help drive your career forward and add more value and become a more valuable person, because that's how you get paid more. Because you may not like what you're being paid, but you're paid what the company thinks you're worth. And you're paid what you've agreed is acceptable for that job. So, but I can help you determine your real worth out in the market, help you be able to identify your ideal jobs, and then help you beat all the competition out to be able to get those jobs. And I've got a free masterclass that I give on how to crush any interview and get the job of your dreams. So I'll give you an hour of free training. If you just sign for my list, or I'll make sure that you get emails so you can sign up for some of that training as well. And let's help raise your guys' career, all of you, to the next level.
That's great. Very generous of you. Really appreciate it. I know the audience will appreciate that too, because, we all want to be paid what we're worth. And, we'd all like to have a career that, is rewarding, and not just, financially, but that gives you, as you stated, the other things that you want out of life, whether it's, things you want to do personally, travel, whatever, buy toys, we all have different things that we'd like. So yeah, we're coming to the end of the show already. It always flies by, Randy. Really appreciate you coming on and providing our audience with that. Again, you go to Randy Fares, PHARES.com. We'll also have that link in the notes for the show. It'll be up on our YouTube channel at safetytalkvideos.com, and then also through all the major podcast networks. So we really appreciate you being on today. And any last thoughts before I let you go?
Well, I would just say, if you can think it, you can do it. So figure out where you want to be, make a plan, and do something every day to get closer and closer to that. Most people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life and their career. Plan it all.
That is so true. And we've heard that before, but unfortunately it is true, and it shouldn't be. You got to spend more time planning out the more important things in life, not just vacation. So awesome. Well, sir, thank you very much. We appreciate you having on Safety Talk. And, thanks to our listeners for listening and watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can, get the latest information on safety and security to you, and help us spread the word to keep this world a safer place. So until next time, everybody, appreciate you, and stay safe.